Good morning and welcome. This is a short introduction and summary of what we are going to be doing in our class this morning, later on this morning, January the 19th, 2021. The topic is, and I'm going to pronounce this in Ashkenazi Hebrew, is Haftorah. In Sephardi Hebrew, it would be Haftarah. There is a difference, clearly. But there's a more important distinction that needs to be made. I need to make this clear before I begin with anything else. In Ashkenazi Hebrew, we have the word Torah, which refers to the 5 books of Moses in its most limited sense, in its broadest sense, all of Jewish teaching. But here we're going to refer to the Torah reading from the Torah scroll from the 5 books of Moses. After the Torah reading, we will have a Haftorah reading from one of the books of the prophets. Now, Torah and Haftorah in Ashkenazi Hebrew sound very much alike, and it would be easy to conclude, as many do without thinking, that the words are related to each other. They're not. Let me explain. Torah, Sephardi Hebrew, Haftarah aren't so similar. And the other important thing in all of this is the T sound in Torah is a taf, and in Haftarah it is a tet. So these are words with different roots and different meanings. I am not going to spend a lot of time, I might not spend any time, on the origin of the Haftorah reading. The origin is sort of lost because the rabbis wanted to say this is the way it was always done, but it's not the case. Even the meaning of Haftarah has been open to an enormous amount of debate. Some people say we begin with the Torah, then we conclude with, but the root patar means you are relieved from the obligation of. And I, in the back of my mind and the front of my mind, see the Haftarah as something that replaced the Torah reading in the Byzantine period, when the Byzantine rulers prohibited the reading of the Torah. In fact, they encouraged the readings from the prophets because they felt in the prophets, according to Christian interpretation, there was a prediction of the coming of their Messiah a lot more than in the 5 books of Moses. When that prohibition of the Torah reading was lifted, and we won't debate dates because everybody has a different time frame for this, the tradition was keep the Haftarah reading. One other, I don't want to say misconception, I also want to say half-truth. The idea that the Torah reading and the Haftarah reading have the same theme. Absolutely, except with all the multitudes of exceptions. The multitudes of exceptions are all the special Sabbaths, such as the Sabbath between, the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. All the Shabbatot, all the Sabbaths before Tisha B'Av, the anniversary of the destruction of the temple, when you have Haftorah readings of rebuke, and from Tisha B'Av up to Rosh Hashanah, Haftarah readings of consolation. So not everything is directly connected, though there are some who would try to find a connection no matter what. If you go to a synagogue service on Shabbat morning, you may want to follow the readings. And we have special books in our synagogue, as others do. In fact, we give you a choice. We give you a choice of the Etz Chaim, which was published by the Conservative Movement, and the URJ commentary in its, I think, 3rd or 4th edition now. I happen to like the Etz Chaim. The print is larger, and in parentheses, you can get large print books also. And the commentaries are more up to date, even though this book is a good 20 years old right now. I also like it because there are special sections on how to apply these readings to our lives today. That's in parentheses. The important point is that we will pick up books that are not the complete Jewish Bible at all, only the readings we have, and therefore I would call them synagogue Bibles. The Torah readings, known more commonly in Yiddish as the Chumash, Chamesh, 5, the 5 books of Moses, Chamesh Chumshei Torah, the 5/5 of the Torah, in other words, the whole thing, is the title in Hebrew of the Hertz commentary, which we have hundreds of in the building. If you want one, come when we reopen and we'll give you one. It reflects a different time and a different place. But the idea behind the point I'm making right now is the canon, the official biblical text, has a canon within it. And that is the sections that are read in the synagogue service. We may read a lot from the book of Isaiah, but not all. And one more point before I end this sort of summary, and we can discuss in the class itself, which will not be recorded. We read the Torah readings from Genesis through Deuteronomy sequentially, from beginning to end, with a break if, let's say, Pesach or Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat. We don't do that with the Haftorah reading. There isn't a sequential reading at all, and there is a real distinction. So the entire biblical text is not read in all synagogue services. We have, in addition to that, a lot of Psalms in the service, but not all of them. And how they were selected is a matter of historical inquiry with a lot of variation throughout the centuries. Discussion to follow. Please join us.